Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome live to the first Mike Tomlin press conference of the new year as the Steelers get set to make a trip to Buffalo. We're live on Pittsburgh CW here in the Pittsburgh market and on all the Steeler digital and social media platforms. We're from the Rooney complex here on the south side, and we're socially distanced. We're here in one studio. Mike Tomlin will be at the indoor facility when he conducts his press conference as the team gets ready to take on the Buffalo Bills. The Steelers, AFC Division North champs from a year ago. Buffalo, 13-3, high expectations for them. A lot of questions with the Steelers, with a new offensive line, the TJ Watt situation, and right now Mike Tomlin is going to answer some of those questions right here live on his press conference.
Good afternoon. Excited about getting started here in 2021. Before I do that, I'd like to acknowledge that, as you all know, we lost a quality human being in Tunch Ilkin a number of days ago. It was an honor to work with Tunch formally and informally. I had an opportunity to develop a great friendship with him over the years through our formal work here at the Pittsburgh Steelers, through our roles, but also just through in informal ways in the community and so forth. I was really appreciative of his participation in my Man Up Pittsburgh initiative annually. He was a critical component of that. And I've thought about him often, quite frankly, over the last couple of days, just in greeting and interacting with people. What an inspiration he was. If you ever said hello to Tunch and asked him how he was doing, he always said better than he deserved. And I would also respond with that same thing when greeted by him. And so he will be sorely missed. I appreciate the life that he lived and the friendship that he provided, not only me, but many of us, not only within this organization, but this community. From a captain standpoint, we elected captains yesterday. I like the group of men that were represented by. As always, they were elected by their teammates. It was definitive, and I think it just is reflective of not only the quality of players that they are in their respective spaces, but also the quality professionals that they are. Really excited for Derek Watt, a guy that's somewhat new to us from an organization standpoint, but not new to quality special teams play. That was one of the things that attracted him to us when he was a free agent. You know, that play has continued during his time here, and it was reflected in the representation that he's going to provide for his teammates in terms of being a captain of that unit. Really excited about that. Excited about meeting the challenges of this week. We don't get an opportunity to warm up to it in 2021. We're going into a hostile venue versus defending the AFC East champions, one of the groups that's been really consistent over the last several years in the AFC. I think that consistency is really steeped in continuity, whether it's about the core players that I'm going to mention in all three phases of the game, or the continuity within their coaching staff. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're regarded the way that they're regarded. I think that's one of the reasons why they've continually been highly competitive within this conference over the last several years. Their core players have, basically remained the same, and they've gained the benefits of that continuity through players and schematics in terms of their coaching staff. Coach McDermott, Leslie Frazier's, and others, they have quality continuity within those ranks as well. So it's reasonable to understand why they're regarded the way that they're regarded. It's also reasonable to understand why the tape looks the way it looks. They've got quality players, they got quality coaches, and they've all been working together now for a number of years, and they've benefited from that. For us, talking about Buffalo's offense, man, it's working to minimize Josh Allen and the things that his talent allows him to do. His arm talent is exceptional. His mobility, particularly for a guy of his size and strength, is exceptional. He got out of the pocket and really created issues for us a year ago, but he does that virtually week in and week out. His mobility, his ability to extend plays is a significant component of his game and their game. They spread you out and challenge you in those ways, highlighting that element of his game. He's really got an impressive group of eligibles to throw to, particularly at the receiver position. Stephon Diggs was a significant acquisition for those guys a year ago, and really paid dividends for them. I know he was a big time problem for us over the second half of that game a year ago up in Buffalo. He's one of the best in the business, regardless of how you cut it or shape it. He's a playmaker down the field, underneath, possession downs, red zone. He is a big time component of what they do. A new acquisition is Emmanuel Sanders, man. That guy has performed at a high level for a long time in this league. I think a catalyst for his performance is his toughness. He's one of those guys that's really tough. We probably have a better understanding of that than most. He's wiry, strong. I think that's one of the reasons why he's had the consistent success that he's had over an extended period of time in his career. Their group up front is a big group, is a physical group. Like I mentioned, in terms of core players and staff, they've got really good continuity in that group, and Dawkins and others, Williams, Ford. That group has been together for a number of years now and grown together, not only in terms of their talents, but in terms of their cohesion. That's going to be a big challenge for us. On the defensive side of the ball, the safety tandem, that combination of that safety tandem along with the nickel and Johnson, man, the way that they work, particularly on the weighty downs, the possession downs, 2 minute and so forth. That group's been together for a number of years. They're quality playmakers. They can cover. They play zone defense. All of those guys are capable blitzers. You have to be prepared to deal with all of them. They challenge you schematically in that way, utilizing that group's versatility and talent. Can't say enough about White at corner. Highly productive, an elite guy at that position, and has been for a number of years. I know he's been big in the recent history of this series in terms of his playmaking. At the linebacker position, they've got continuity there as well. Edmonds has been kind of an all situations guy in the middle of that thing since the day they drafted him, and I'm sure they've benefited, and he's benefited from that. They play a lot of people up front. Guys that like Hughes and that have been there for a number of years, but also they've added to that bunch with quality draft picks like Russo, who figures to have a significant role in the game along with some others this week. And so, we're preparing with an edge because of the things that I've outlined. They're a quality group. They've got quality players virtually at all positions. They've got a really good coaching staff that's been together for a number of years. We're playing them in their venue. Their crowd, I imagine, is going to be excited. I think it's important that we perform, particularly in those weighty downs early, to try to minimize some of that in terms of how it affects the game. We got to play good on possession downs on both sides. We got to do a good job of taking care of the ball and working to minimize that crowd element of it, particularly early on, is a component that we're concerned about. The turnover game is also significant. If you look at the recent history of this matchup, man, it's played out in a very significant way. In 2019, I think we threw 4 interceptions here in Pittsburgh against them, and obviously that was significant in terms of how the game unfolded. And I thought that the pick 6 right before the half last year was as big a play as there was in that game, and really kind of changed the trajectory of that game last year. So that's not something that's new. That's not something that's exclusive to this matchup. Those of you that have watched us through team development, you know how we embrace the ball security element of competition and the ball searching element of competition, man. That has to be on display for us as you go into an environment like we're going into versus the type of team that we're going into against. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the football conditioning element of week 1. There's always an element of the unknown in regards to football conditioning. And so we're going to have a nice plan in regards to that. We need to be inclusive in terms of our plan. We need to be prepared to play a lot of people, all that are available to us. We need to be thoughtful about the consequences of possession downs and working to keep our groups fresh and what that means. We need to need to understand that. I think our guys have done a really good job of preparing themselves from a conditioning standpoint, but preparation is one thing and regular season play is another. But that's something that all 32 teams are having to deal with this week, but I am acknowledging that. From a health standpoint, man, I think we're in a really good spot. All the guys that are on the active roster, I'm anticipating their participation tomorrow, and so I'm excited about that. We got a big week ahead of us from a preparation standpoint. I've talked a lot about the things that make this opportunity a significant one, the variables that are going to be significant in terms of how the game unfolds. But more than anything, first things first, we got to have good days. We had a good day yesterday. We got to have another good day tomorrow and so forth as we proceed through the week and provide the information that we think is going to be necessary to play a good game. So I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, you mentioned that Dale, hold on. Mike, in regards to participation, where do you stand with TJ? Will he be back on the practice field? Can he play? Where's that stand?
You know, like it's been mentioned organizationally here several times in the last several days, it's my understanding. I remain optimistic that something's going to get done from a deal perspective. That aside, you know, I'm expecting him to work tomorrow. I'm proceeding with the assumption that he's going to work tomorrow. You know, that's kind of the approach that I'm taking. He's missed some time due to obvious reasons, but like I've also mentioned over the course of this team development process, I focus very little on those that aren't working for whatever reason that they're not working. I tend to focus my energy on those that are. We've had a lot of things to focus on at the outside linebacker position during the time that he hasn't been working, the acclimation of Melvin Ingram, the development of Jones, the continued development of Highsmith. I've been pleased with all of those fronts. And so, you know, like I mentioned, I'm proceeding with the assumption that he's working tomorrow and he gets to add his talents to that collection and the development of that collection, and hopefully it culminates in quality play not only this weekend from that group, but obviously over the course of the 2021 season.
Mike, to that point, when you talked about the conditioning aspect of football early on in the season, and with TJ having not had a lot of or any football contact, what does that do in terms of snap count availability for him going into this week?
You know, we'll play it by ear. One thing I'm not going to do is assume that he's regular, you know, or normal. I think guys that are in the position that he's in, they're in those positions because of their unique talents and skill set and will, if you will. I remember several years ago I watched Aaron Donald here in town for the vast majority of July and August when he was in a similar circumstance, and I was not surprised when he got to L.A. and performed immediately to an Aaron Donald standard. I think guys like those guys routinely do what others can't, and so I kind of have that perspective on his readiness and the anticipated quality of his play. I've just been in this game so long at this level. I'm so used to seeing uniquely talented people rise up in the face of adversity or circumstance and exceed it. And so I'd probably be lying if I told you I would be surprised if he didn't perform and perform well.
Mike, is the assumption that TJ is going to play or going to practice tomorrow based on conversations that you've had with him? And is there an amount that he needs to practice this week to be available to you guys Sunday?
I'll leave the conversations had between he and I. I hadn't thought a lot about a tipping point, if you will, in terms of participation. Like I mentioned earlier, like the rest of our organization, I've been optimistic about this process running its course. And so because of that optimism, I'm anticipating quality play from him this weekend and beyond.
Mike, it looks like you're going to start 3, maybe 4 rookies on offense. Is there some level of trepidation about starting so many rookies, and why did you choose them over some established vets that are behind them?
You know, I often tell our group, man, I don't care about what means they got here. They're here, and what they do moving forward determines who stays, who goes, division of labor, and so forth. And I think where those guys are on the depth chart reflect what they've done through the team development process. I haven't graded on a curve, if you will. We haven't graded on a curve. Those guys have earned their positioning through their play. I'm excited about what they're going to provide us this weekend, but at the same time, I think it's reasonable to expect those guys to find their footing and improve continually and rapidly over the course of over this journey. But that being said, you know, I'm excited about watching them play, not only them, but guys like Presley Harvin as well. I think that that's what comes with this time of year. There's always an element of the unknown that kind of heightens your awareness and gives you that tingle. Whether it's individuals or whether it's us collectively as a unit or as a football team, I'm excited about getting in a venue and under real circumstances and some September football with these guys. I know that we're going to know a heck of a lot more about ourselves individually and collectively after this weekend than we did before. But I imagine 31 other teams are going to say the same thing coming out of this weekend.
Yeah, Mike, how much has Dan Moore developed, especially on the left side, since training camp opened?
You know, he's developed a lot, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that he probably came with more than we anticipated. You know, he's gotten better throughout the course of this, but I think his floor was higher than anticipated, at least from my perspective.
You, in talking about TJ Watt, you said you do expect him to work tomorrow. To be fair, he has worked all during training camp. He just hasn't done any team drills. Do you expect him to do team drills? Will you be in pads at all this week? And do you expect him to hit in pads?
You know, I don't know how more clear I can give it to you. You know, I'm proceeding with the assumption that he's a full participant and worker tomorrow.
Like if his snap count isn't all compromised, how's Melvin Ingram look since you've gotten him in the building, and what do you think about him maybe taking on an expanded role?
No reservations about Melvin's capabilities as an outside linebacker or his preparedness in terms of being able to execute our football. Again, like I mentioned, one man's misfortune or circumstance is another man's opportunity, and the things that have gone on with TJ have really given him an opportunity to acclimate himself to what it is that we're doing, but also do it within the first group and get reps with that group. So I'm really excited about his preparedness.
Mike, I know you guys are always I know you guys are always looking forward, but what are some of the things that you guys learned from just being able to look back last year at the matchup with Josh Allen? Just early on, you guys had success, and later on, he found some success against you guys. What are some of those things?
You know, I hadn't done a lot of that in terms of comparison relative to this challenge. Some of our components have changed. Some of their components have changed. I'm sure he's grown and developed not only as a player, but within their system of football. It's about what we're prepared to execute and capable of executing at this stage of the journey. When we played those guys, really the last 2 years, it's been at the latter portions of the season, and I think we all grow over the course of the journey, and I think that allows the game to play out in a very different manner than it does potentially in week one. So, you know, I don't know that there's a lot of real hard, tangible comparisons. I think all of us, as we walk into stadiums week one, are more concerned about our quality of play, what we can execute, our division of labor, and things such as that. Week one-like things.
Mike, you didn't have anybody listed as starting slot in the depth chart. Is it Sutton, and will he bounce outside in the base as well, or is it more beneficial for whoever you have out there, Pierre, whoever, to stay out there for the entire time?
Very observant. I did that by design because we got some options there, and I choose to hold those cards close to the vest. Cam Sutton is a very capable guy who's done that inside, and it's reasonable to anticipate that he's going to do it in some form or fashion, but he's also going to play outside as well. He's done an awesome job of that during the team development process, and so we're going to spin the dial through the division of labor in that area, and I'm excited about being able to do so and some of the mystery associated with what we're going to do in that area.
Mike, you did touch on it a little bit, but how would you describe the mood among the group here as you head into week one, especially playing in front of a full stadium for the first time in over a season?
I think everyone's really, excited. It's week one in the National Football League, but not only that, man, they came off of a long weekend, a bye weekend, and that's unusual for all of us. I think all of the guys appreciated that. But the mood is less significant or important than the work. And so I'm excited about our focus, our attention to detail, and the work that we're going to do over the course of the next couple of days in preparation for the opportunity. Oftentimes the quality of that work and the success of that work day to day determines the mood.
Going back to when you were discussing Aaron Donald being exceptional and not necessarily having the same curve to be normal in his first game back, what is so difficult about hitting when you haven't hit? And what was it about Aaron Donald that stood out and gives you that same hope in TJ?
I didn't say anything was difficult about hitting. These are football players, man. That's what they do. I imagine they warm up to that element of it extremely quickly. I'm just talking about special players routinely rise up in the face of adversity or what we think they're capable of providing and exceeding it. I just think it happens on a regular basis at this level of football. And it happens all around us. I've witnessed it so much over the years that I'm never surprised by it.
Mike, has Witherspoon been around long enough and able to learn enough to get a hat on Sunday and play on Sunday?
We're going to determine that. I don't have the answer to that as we sit here right now. I think the quality of his work over the next several days will determine that. It's reasonable to expect him to learn it. We've seen that, particularly at that position in recent years. Ross Cockrell was able to come in here a number of years ago and be ready in a week's preparation. Joe Hayden, when he came here a number of years ago, I think he met us in Carolina and essentially had a week's preparation. So particularly from a veteran player standpoint, a guy that's been in some systems and been around some NFL football, it's not unreasonable to expect those guys to be ready from an assignment standpoint.
Now that you've had Joe Schobert for a couple of weeks, you obviously had great familiarity with him, but what has he shown to provide you? What's been maybe better than expected?
His above the net game is what I anticipated. He's been an extremely quick study. He fits in. He communicates well. He's versatile. He can blitz. He can cover. He can tackle. But all of those are things that we knew being so familiar and having competed against him. And I think he's done nothing but just confirm those things. And we're excited about watching him play within our group in a real regular season setting and watching a complete sample size.
With Witherspoon, I know you had an injury to Brooks, who was mostly playing cornerback for you. Was that one of the reasons you wanted to get another corner, or was there something else?
No, we just wanted to add to our outside corner depth. It provides versatility for us, like we were mentioned, talking about Cam Sutton and his ability to move inside. Capable outside guys, having enough depth at that position aids us in that regard.
Mike, I assume Banner had some sort of a setback after that Lions game. Is that what it was, or was he not ready? And is it more of a short-term or long-term thing, in your opinion?
That remains to be seen. We'll play it by ear. I know that he's working extremely hard day to day to get back to us. He sustained a significant injury, and different guys come back at different rates. And that's one of the points that we've stressed to him and to Devin Bush. And early on during the process, man, he was dragging Devin along. When I think back to the offseason, and obviously through the team development process, Devin has taken off, and his not so much so. We'll continue to work him. He'll continue to work in an effort to get back to us, and hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later.
Guys, we'll do Joe and then Brooke. That'll be the final two.
With Stephon, you listed him as having a knee injury. When did this kind of crop up, or is this something it's been there for a while?
I don't have the exact date. Much like Banner, it's unfortunate. He won't be available to us this week. Hopefully he's back to us sooner rather than later.
Final one.
Well, we'll hit the hat trick with IR questions. With Anthony McFarland, what was his injury? When did it occur? And is it expected to be more long-term than just these 3 weeks?
To be honest with you, I hadn't asked a lot of questions, and that's why I'm being somewhat vague about the guys that have been placed on IR. I focus my energy on guys that are going to be in a helmet in the stadium this weekend. And so I'll provide more information about those guys at a later date or as they get closer to participation. I just hadn't spent a lot of time asking questions about the availability of guys that I knew weren't participating this week. So I don't have a lot of detailed, accurate information. Sorry.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin. First press conference in the book. Missy Matthews, Steelers.com, is here, and we were very attentive to what went on there. Missy, overall, your thoughts about what he had to say?
Well, I think a lot of TJ Watt news, of course. That is what everybody wanted to hear. Everyone here at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on Monday, Bob, saw that he was not participating in the team drills once again. So Coach talked about that. We'll hear, if you missed it, a little bit about that. But also a health standpoint, said all good, expects everyone to practice tomorrow. So heading into week 1 healthy, it might be a little thing, but that is a really good way to start the season.
Yeah, they still have some guys who are on the injured reserve list. We'll talk about that and how it affects a very young offensive line as we continue. I want to remind you, we're going to continue till 1 o'clock here today, so Missy and I will break down some of what Mike Tomlin said in case you missed it. Also, the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show on KDKA will air this Saturday night, 11:35. You can also watch the program on the Steelers YouTube channel if you miss it when it airs. BetMGM Steelers kickoff, that's 11:30 a.m. as we begin our coverage. Missy, it's going to start on Sunday. Here we go. Steelers
As
and
Coach
Bills.
Tomlin said, no chance to warm up to 2021, Bob.
That's going to be a tough place to play given the fact the Bills have very high expectations. We'll continue with the Mike Tomlin press conference right here on Pittsburgh CW and all the Steeler digital platforms in just a moment.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Well, the biggest aspect is just being a specialist and, being a good punter, producing on the field for field position for the defense, as well as holding. I've continued to embrace the fact of holding is a big part of this game because those points matter, especially in games like the NFL. You don't really have many blowout games. They're always close. So I just put myself in a position to where, I can show the team and the coaches that, I can do this at this level. I come to work every single day on it. Like we just had a pretty good day today. We hit everything on all cylinders today, and just continuing to get that confidence is, I think, what it's definitely helped me.
Presley, how do you get that confidence from Chris? How do you go about building that relationship?
Yeah, just the repetition on the field. We come out every single day. He might not hit a field goal, but he's right beside me, making sure that I'm putting the ball on the spot, making sure I'm spinning the ball the right way, and just, just the ins and out of the whole thing. It's just basically just over time accumulation of, getting more and more reps together that just starts to have that confidence. And, as of today, Boz is a good help. If it wasn't for these guys that are older than me that, show me the ins and out of the thing, I don't think I would probably be here today because of that. So just them making themselves a little bit more selfless and putting their job on the back burner to try to help me catch up is one of the biggest things that I think the confidence came from.
Is there anything different at this level that they're asking you to do, or they didn't have to do in terms of punting at least?
Mm-hmm. Not too much difference. It's just the field position is critical, as well as the placement of the ball and hang time. It's the same thing. I mean, punting has always been the same thing throughout high school, college, and NFL level. It's just how can I word it? I think it's just the way that things are expected. It just continue to rise and rise at the level you continue to go up. And you don't really get a rep back on this league. Like, you have to put your best foot forward on every one, and every punt counts.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz Field.
for the Mike Tomlin press conference, which just concluded. Mike Tomlin, though, heads into the season, Missy, with a chance to climb up the all-time win list in the NFL among active coaches.
Yeah, we have our By the Numbers today, and I believe that is sponsored, correct?
Yes, By the Numbers by BetMGM. And let's take a look at it, because when you look at this, Belichick, Reed, and then Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin are tied. Now, they're going to play this year, too, right? So all of a sudden, that could be a back-and-forth kind of competition between those two guys. Pretty impressive numbers there for Mike Tomlin. And the fact he's never had a losing season. And I think coming into this season, Missy, a lot of people are looking at the depth of the AFC North and know it's a tough division to play in. And so there's going to be a lot of headbanging going on. But number one, the overriding issue going into this, of course, is TJ Watt. And, you know, we heard what Mike Tomlin said. He's operating under the assumption that TJ will be a full participant in practice, something he hasn't done. Are you concerned at all about the fact that he hasn't had much time going into this first game?
Well, you know, having a chance to watch every single practice at Heinz Field during training camp, what TJ Watt does on the side is probably more vigorous than what some people perhaps do in their daily workout. He was not just sitting around watching what his teammates were doing in terms of the team portion. Yes, of course, was he not involved in the 11-on-11 and the things that you really want to see him doing and working with some new teammates. You know, Joe Schobert's there. Of course, they know each other from Wisconsin, but even guys on the back end, he is familiar with a number of those starters, but I think that's where you kind of lose those portions. But, you know, TJ traveled. He was in Canton, he was in Philly, he was in Carolina. He's been in team meetings. So as, you know, Coach reiterated, he is one of those kind of freaks of natures. He's not normal, and he's not operating under the assumption that, you know, TJ will have to warm up to, you know, returning to regular season action. And he even referenced Aaron Donald, somebody that we watched work out here when he was having a bit of a contract dispute with LA.
Yeah, and he came right in, didn't miss a beat. Next thing you know, he's right back at Aaron Donald level, and he would expect that from TJ Watt. In case you missed it, this is Mike Tomlin on the situation with TJ Watt and this contract impasse.
He's missed time due to obvious reasons, but like I've also mentioned over the course of this team development process, I focus very little on those that aren't working for whatever reason that they're not working. I tend to focus my energy on those that are. We've had a lot of things to focus on at the outside linebacker position during the time that he hasn't been working. The acclimation of Melvin Ingram, the development of Jones, the continued development of Highsmith. I've been pleased with all of those fronts. And so, you know, like I mentioned, I'm proceeding with the assumption that he's working tomorrow and he gets to add his talents to that collection and the development of that collection. And hopefully it culminates in quality play, not only this weekend from that group, but obviously over the course of the 2021 season.
So Mike Tomlin talks about TJ Watt, and it's interesting because we always talk snap count, Missy, about how effective he can be. But as you heard Mike say earlier in the press conference, this is not a normal player you're talking about. And as you referenced, he's in really good shape. So I would imagine, you know, when he plays on Sunday, if he plays on that, I got to believe he will, even if this thing doesn't get done, that he's going to be what he normally is. Maybe not as many snaps, but certainly effective when he's in there.
Right. And I do, you know, Coach Tomlin said in terms of the week one physical conditioning of the entire team, he expects a large number of guys to play, and he is being cautious of the fact that, you know, they went through training camp in the preseason, but the regular season is a step up. You are playing in Buffalo against a really good team, so he expects a lot of guys to play and to contribute, to be cognizant of maybe that physical conditioning, which he has preached the entire offseason into training camp and has really liked where the group is. But I think week one, you really know who's in shape and who's not.
But the plus side of this, as he indicated, is that Melvin Ingram came in. You know what he can do. I mean, he's a Pro Bowl player. But by virtue of TJ Watt not participating, he got those reps. So now you got three potential guys who are all really good at getting to the quarterback, and that includes Alex Highsmith.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Highsmith, I think every practice, every game, you know, he was a guy that caught your eye throughout this entire process. And Melvin Ingram, I think he put it best when he came to Pittsburgh. It was like I was a kid in a candy shop, you know, getting a chance to have a fresh start coming off of an injury, and he's looked great as well. So a threesome that you would really like to see in terms of, you know, those two with TJ Watt. As Coach said, optimistic he'll return to practice as a full participant tomorrow. The Steelers, of course, are off today, so I'm sure we will be on Watt watch all week.
That should continue, and hopefully there is a deal that is forthcoming. Mike Tomlin said he is, quote, optimistic that something will get done. We'll continue with a breakdown of the Steelers as they get set for the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk about some of the stuff on offense as well, and a raw rookie starting at left tackle who's impressed the coaching staff. It's all when we come back, right here live. Mike Tomlin press conference continues.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Yeah, just contributing to help this team win a championship. It's still early. It's day one today, so just really getting in, understanding the defense, and just working to solidify a role on this team to help them win a championship.
Where'd they help you today?
At corner. Yeah, both sides.
You feel more familiar on?
Yes.
You feel more familiar on either side?
No. I just play football. I'm good on both sides.
How different are the defenses comparing San Francisco and Seattle and Pittsburgh?
Definitely much different, but something that I think fits my skill set well, and I'm excited to kind of switch up what I've been doing for the last 4 years, and get out here and just work something else.
Also, how will this defense be better for you?
I think just a lot of man coverage is important for my game. And then just switching it up, just giving the quarterbacks different looks so that we're not predictable.
Did you have much of a feel for the team before you got traded here?
No.
You know much about the Steelers or you know any of these guys?
No, I just know it's a storied organization, so I just know it has good history, and I'm just excited to be a part of it, quite frankly.
Did they give you any attention when you were drafted?
That's a good question. Did they? I think they did, yeah. I had like a little interview down in the basement at the hotel.
Not with Tomlin or anything?
No, not with Tomlin directly.
We can't hear. All right.
Reps with that group, so I'm really excited about his preparedness. No reservations about.
Talking about Melvin Ingram, and the Steelers have led the NFL in sacks 4 straight years, and I would imagine with the weaponry they have this year, they're going to be able to continue that streak, Missy.
Yeah, and it's not just Melvin Ingram, Trey Turner, Joe Schobert was brought in during training camp, Akilla Witherspoon, who we just heard in that last break. Kevin Colbert really doing a nice job helping solidify this team as we're heading into week 1.
All of those issues were depth issues, and he went out and got them at a relatively cheap price by and large. He also, and the Steelers, have a raw, young offensive line from what it was last year. And Dan Moore has emerged as the starter at left tackle. I don't think many people saw that when he was drafted 4th round, but you remember Kevin Dotson was a 4th round pick. He came in and took that position by storm. He really likes what Dan Moore has been able to do, and we'll take a listen to what Mike Tomlin had to say about the rookie at left tackle.
He's developed a lot, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that he probably came with more than we anticipated. He's gotten better throughout the course of this, but I think his floor was higher than anticipated, at least from my perspective.
Tomlin said he came with more than was anticipated. And I guess as a fourth-round pick, I don't know what the expectation or anticipation is, but he's emerged. You've watched it daily, how he's emerged from being someone who was maybe a backup swing tackle. Now all of a sudden he's a starter.
Yeah, it was that last preseason game we saw him at right tackle, and I had a chance to catch up with him afterwards and said, I'm not as comfortable there. So then we saw the shift back to left. I think maybe the anticipation was he would be a swing tackle for the Steelers this year and continue to learn. But, when the official depth chart was put out yesterday, he was there at left tackle. Kendrick Green, who I think we all knew was going to be the starting center, but it's official when Coach Tomlin puts the depth chart out there. But Najee Harris, of course, we knew there. So, a big deal for 4 rookies on offense that will be having a chance to start. Eric Ebron and Pat Freiermuth had that "or" there, kind of the high school way of designating who the first teamer is, and it makes me think back to the draft class that they had 3 rookies on defense: Artie Burns, Javon Hargraves, and Sean Davis, when they had a chance to try to do something good. So not a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of pressure. I think we know that these guys are capable, but as you're looking here, the names in yellow, those are rookies.
Rookies, and there could be 4 of them. And here's the thing. You look at the offensive line, Missy, from Moore to Dotson to Green to Turner, who's the oldest one at 28. It has gone from the oldest, one of the oldest offensive lines in the game, to one of the youngest. And there's a lot of trust involved, and you're right. There was a time when you had to acclimate yourself to the NFL. You wouldn't play as a rookie, even if you were a number 1 pick. Now these guys are in there, and they're expected to perform right off the bat.
Yeah, and I think we remember, Troy Polamalu's Hall of Fame speech talking about his rookie year that humbled him. He was not an instant Hall of Fame or instant success in the league. So sometimes it takes time, but for these guys, it's, get in there and show us what you can do. But as you mentioned, Kevin Colbert in the scouting department, always with a great track record in terms of drafting. And when you finish last in rushing, I think, things have to improve whenever Art Rooney II down to Kevin Colbert, Mike Tomlin, everyone has acknowledged that. And retooling this offensive line, picking up Najee Harris as the 24th overall pick, those are hopefully getting you in the right direction. We'll see where things stand when they, face a very good Buffalo defense on Sunday.
No question. But if that run game does resurface and become something that they can count on, it really will help. What is a very talented wide receiving group, tight end group, and Ben Roethlisberger will be, you would think, the beneficiary of it all. We'll take a break and continue here with the Mike Tomlin press conference. Still lots to get into as you watch us live here from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Definitely, I feel like if I regress, then I've done a disservice to myself. So I see a big leap going into the second year.
In what regards?
Productivity, less MAs. I had a couple, one a game is too many. So just being, executing every play, and then, just helping other guys get better as well.
Do you think they might have to play you guys straight up this year because all 3 or 4 of you guys are pretty good receivers, and they can't focus on one guy?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially with our interior like Ebron and Pat, I think it'll be hard to roll cover 2 safeties and cloud because the inside of the field will be pretty threatening, I guess you could say, with Ebron and Pat. So, and then Najee.
You guys haven't played a game yet, but what has Najee brought?
I think he brings a lot of versatility. He opens it up for the receivers because they have to respect the run game. And then he's also a really dynamic receiver, as you guys saw in the home game versus Detroit, his run after the catch.
I don't know how much you can tell from on practice or how much you went against or whatever, but did he make any impression on you that the new guy?
Yeah, he covered me downfield on a high corner, and we were talking on the way back, and I was on the way back to the huddle. I was trying to give him apartment suggestions, so recruit him to my apartment. Yeah. Yeah. I think the taller the corner, the more I can get by them. But he did it. I mean, I only went against a couple reps, but he did a really good job. So having size and speed is really good.
James has some size as well. How is Pierre?
Pierre gives me the toughest looks because I think Pierre presses out of the most, and he just knows how to play me pretty good. So I love going against Pierre.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz Field.
Bob Pompiani, Missy Matthews with you after the Mike Tomlin press conference as the Steelers get set for Buffalo on Sunday. And one thing that he was a little evasive about was slot corner. Mike Hilton, of course, left, signed a nice deal with Cincinnati. They have been trying to figure out who it would be. It was Antoine Brooks Jr. to start. He's no longer here. They've used a lot of different people, but at this point it looks like Cam Sutton may go in and out.
Yeah, and Arthur Maulet at one point was there as well. So Coach Tomlin saying that he did it on purpose, not having that throughout the preseason. And he always says, don't take stock in the preseason training camp depth charts. They just do it because they have to. There was someone listed there, but like you said, this one does not include it. And I do think, it is a way of saying to Buffalo, we're not going to tip our hand just yet. I know everybody has asked everybody possible from defensive players, even offensive players. Keith Butler, defensive coordinator, gets it a lot of who's going to play there. And what do you do with Cam Sutton? We know that he is a Swiss Army knife. They've liked him. That's why they drafted him out of Tennessee. He was part of the TJ Watt, Juju Smith-Schuster draft class. So I am interested to see what happens in terms of that in Buffalo.
All right, this is what Mike Tomlin had to say about the slot corner position.
Very observant. I did that by design because we got some options there, and I choose to hold those cards close to the vest. Cam Sutton is a very capable guy who's done that inside, and it's reasonable to anticipate that he's going to do it in some form or fashion, but he's also going to play outside as well. He's done an awesome job of that during the team development process, and so we're going to spin the dial through the division of labor in that area, and I'm excited about being able to do so and some of the mystery associated with what we're going to do in that area.
Mike, you did touch on.
So they do have options there. He talked about Cam going in and out. James Pierre has been good, and they brought in Witherspoon. So who knows what Buffalo may see on Sunday.
And Coach Tomlin was asked about the availability of Ahkello Witherspoon. We spoke to him yesterday after practice. He said he was on both sides, on the outside, kind of getting acclimated to his new team, happy to be here. And, Coach said it's not out of reason to think that he could play on Sunday. As he said earlier in his press conference, that football conditioning, getting a lot of guys in to make sure that nobody gets fatigued or, does something in terms of injuries week one.
Plus, Witherspoon took over 300 snaps last year, so he's a guy who knows how to do this. He kind of equated it to Joe Hayden coming in late when he was acquired from the Cleveland Browns, so you never know. He could jump right into the mix as well. We'll take a break, continue after the Mike Tomlin press conference here, live on Pittsburgh CW, as well as all the Steeler digital platform. We'll be right back.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Pierre the guy at number 3?
Well, we got several guys, and I'm not going to tell you who the guy is. I'm going to make that Buffalo figure that out. Okay? We got several guys that can play and move around at different positions, and we're going to move them around at different positions. So in terms of who's going to be the nickel, who's going to be the left corner, who's going to be the right corner, who's going to be the free safety, strong safety, all that stuff. Fortunately for us, we got some guys who knows the whole defense, and they know what we're going to expect out of each position, and we can change positions with them if we need to.
Keith, you've got some different numbers in terms of what you guys typically do. 8 defensive linemen, I think 6 inside linebackers.
Why?
Does that change how you kind of do things?
Well, you know, what's always been the case here since Mike's been here, and Bill too, the guys who are backups are kept because of how they can help Danny Smith, you know, which it should be. So linebackers are premium for playing special teams, and so we need guys who can run down and make tackles on special teams. Field position is going to be big for us, big for everybody really. So those guys making the team means they're good at what they do in terms of special teams, and that's what we tell our guys all the time, man. Buy yourself time, if not a high round draft choice or something like that. Buy yourself time on the roster by playing well on special teams, because the longer you play on special teams, the more you make yourself valuable, then you give yourself a chance to one day become a starter.
The terrible towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz Field.
Welcome back to our coverage of the Mike Tomlin press conference. Mike Tomlin and his team ready to go in Buffalo on Sunday. You'll see it on KDK TV. We talked about some of the guys Kevin Colbert has brought in this offseason. Missy Schobert is one of them. Another Pro Bowl acquisition at an area that really needed it. Last year they had so many things that happened on the inside linebacker with Vince Williams going to COVID, and he had injuries, Devin Bush. You need fortification there, and he went out and got it.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think even just watching the process of Devin Bush getting back from that knee injury this offseason, obviously he was able to go 100% in training camp and into the preseason. Not so sure that, you know, that's exactly why they wanted to get Schobert. Obviously, Robert Spillane did a phenomenal job stepping in last year to replace Devin Bush. But what a loss that was, especially after his rookie year and what he meant to that defense. And I think people do forget towards the end, yes, did the Steelers go 11-0 and then kind of falter at the end, but you lost Devin Bush, you lost Bud Dupree. Those are two important pieces of that defense that was cohesively just working so well together. So Joe Schobert definitely solidifying that. He is a communicator. He is somebody the Steelers are familiar with from his time with the Browns, played him against Jacksonville. And he came right in, practiced a week, and played in a preseason game, and they saw enough from him in terms of what he needs to know to learn this offense and to be that defensive quarterback.
No question, he will add to the mix in the inside of the linebacking department. We'll take a break and come back with some final thoughts. Mike Tomlin press conference here live on Pittsburgh CW and Steeler digital platforms.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Reaction to it, and maybe how did you kind of decide to take to it?
I was the backup in college just because we had a guy and we needed someone to be the backup, and just after that, when I got released from New England, I was on a workout in Green Bay, and they knew I was the backup and did it for like 3 games at Duquesne, and they asked me to snap, and once I did it, they were like, hey, this is what you need to work on the next year, 2 years, whatever you need to do, and you'll be in the league. So that's kind of how I took it and ran with it. So.
How much does the coverage part of it and the punt returns take into you making this team really?
I don't think. I think that's just an added bonus. I don't think it really had any effect. More about snapping and blocking rather than coverage, and that's just an added bonus that I bring to the table.
How old were you when, or do you remember the game when all of a sudden James Harrison?
Yes, against Cleveland.
Remember how old you were for that, and did you ever think that, hey, long snapping, this could be the way to go?
I think I want to say like 8 years old, but I do remember the game versus Cleveland, and he came in and snapped it over the head. I really never thought about the long snapper position until I started doing it, and then you have a real respect for what these guys do, and I mean it's a job, and it's a hard job.
What's the key to, like when you said you went to Green Bay and you kind of had it and they told you to work on stuff?
Just the consistency. Like, you got to be consistent. It's got to be there every time, the same ball. The second you start throwing a different ball or trying to do something different, that's when things start getting shaky. So just the consistency throughout the snap, the blocking, everything.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz Field.
I'd like to acknowledge that, as you all know, we lost a quality human being in Tunch Ilkin a number of days ago. It was an honor to work with Tunch formally and informally. I had an opportunity to develop a great friendship with him over the years through our formal work here at the Pittsburgh Steelers, through our roles, but also just through in informal ways in the community and so forth. I was really appreciative of his participation in my Man Up Pittsburgh initiative annually. He was a critical component of that. And I've thought about him often, quite frankly, over the last couple of days, just in greeting and interacting with people. What an inspiration he was. If you ever said hello to Tunch and asked him how he was doing, he always said better than he deserved. And I would also respond with that same thing.
Great praise for the late Tunch Ilkin, who will be laid to rest today, and he impacted everyone over here and also in the Pittsburgh community.
Absolutely. Thoughts and prayers to his wife, Karen, his kids. We will definitely miss Tunch.
Yeah, we absolutely will. All right, want to remind you, the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show, KDK, 11:35 on Saturday. You can watch it on Steelers YouTube channel after that. BetMGM Steelers kickoff, 11:30 a.m. on Sunday morning after the game. You can catch the Neighborhood Ford Store Extra Point. We got you covered all day on KDKA and Pittsburgh CW. Have a good day, everyone.